land.
Okay.
So we have Dr. Umar Johnson that's here on line.
Yes,
And
indeed. Let me get some background on the doctor as well, too, man. He's a doctor of clinical psychology and a certified school psychologist. He's considered as an expert on the education and mental health of African and African-American children. Now, Dr. Umar, as he is known to friends, is a paternal kinsman to both the great abolitionist Frederick Douglass and the late Bishop Alexander Wayman. Now, 7th Bishop of the AME Church, both from Maryland's Eastern Shores. I know a little bit about the Eastern Shores, man, being that I resided in Baltimore, Maryland for, several years working for Radio 1.
Yes, sir.
Radio group up there, along with Miss Catherine Hughes.
Yes, sir.
So we'd just like to say, welcome, Dr. Umar.
Thank you, brother. Glad to be with you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. The program is called I Ignite. We educate, we empower, and we enlighten, man. And that's what it's all about, man. And we are definitely, privileged to have you on to share your story this afternoon, man. And we are definitely going to be talking about the things that you want to talk about, because that's what the program is all about, man. And, we're going to have some intelligent conversation. And also our global people are definitely tuning in. They're in droves already, so it's definitely a pleasure to have you on the show, man. So I know that you have something really big coming up in Durham as well too, so we're going to talk about that. But first, what I wanted you to do was to give just a little bit of background information, as opposed to me sitting here and attempting to read your bio. So give our global audience just a little bit of background information on who is Dr. Umar Johnson.
Certainly, as you said, I'm a doctor of clinical psychology, certified school psychologist. I'm in practice in Pennsylvania, where I largely work with schools, independent, parochial, charter, independent, juvenile detention centers, prisons. I do evaluations for school-age children from 3 all the way up to age 21, and it's my job to qualify them or not qualify them for learning disabilities, autism, emotional disturbance, ADHD, intellectual disabilities, formerly known as mental retardation. I'm part of the special education process. In fact, school psychologist is considered the gatekeeper, because we decide who goes in. You don't go to special ed unless you've been evaluated by one of us. Unfortunately, in the United States of America, we represent less than 1% of all school psychologists in the country, which helps to explain why special ed rates for black children are so high, because most of the evaluators do not look like them and don't understand them. In addition to that, I'm obviously a Pan-Africanist, former Minister of Education for Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, and founder of my own organization, which is the International Movement for the Independence and Protection of African People, otherwise known as Team Pan-African. I'm author of the book Psychoacademic Holocaust, Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, which is the only book written by a black school psychologist ever that teaches black parents the ins and outs of special education, ADHD, psychiatric medication, but more importantly, equips them with the tools that they can use to go into the schools and effectively advocate and protect their children. Also founder of the Black College and Consciousness Tour. We'll be doing our second one this coming summer out of Atlanta, where we take our young men and women to both not only historically black colleges, but major landmarks and places that are very important when you're looking at the African historic. I also do a trip to Africa every summer for 2 weeks, 2 different African countries, to expose people to their ancestral homeland. Tuesday morning, which is tomorrow, I host a free Black Parent teleconference every Tuesday morning, where Black parents from around the world can call in and get free expert advice on any issue related to education or mental health. And hopefully I'll get a chance to drop that phone number, so for parents you have listening who may be going through something, they can call in and get that information. So that's basically me, Dr. Umar Johnson, part psychologist, part Pan-Africanist, 100% a soldier for our people.
Oh yeah, definitely. So now that phone number, go ahead and drop that number, man.
Yes, for the Tuesday morning phone call, that's 6 to 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The number is 857-232-0150. I can't think of another city I've been to that has taken me 13 years to get back to. I've been working on it, but it's finally materialized. So on Tuesday, January the 17th, we'll be at the Haiti Heritage Center. Doors open up at 6. Program begins at 6. Doors open up at 4 o'clock. And we're going to deal in-depthly with the school-to-prison pipeline, the psychoacademic holocaust, the special education, and ADHD wars against black boys. And I want all your parents who are listening in North Carolina and around the country who are able to join us in Durham, please do so, because I'm going to really go in depth. That whole night is going to be dedicated to education. I'm going to talk about graduation tests. I'm going to talk about IQ tests. I'm going to talk about standardized testing, how to prepare your child for tests, understanding the special ed process. What exactly is the learning disability? What are the assessments that we use? What is the IEP process? How can you bring justice for your child if the school is not doing right by them? What are the laws as it relates to discipline, as it relates to instruction, as it relates to grading, as it relates to the special ed process? So I'm going to really go in on the special ed law piece, and I think it'll be a treat, especially for the parents in North Carolina, because in North Carolina, you guys have some of the highest numbers. When we look at black kids in special ed, when we look at black boys diagnosed with ADHD, and we look at black children prescribed psychiatric medication, some of the counties in North Carolina lead the nation in terms of black-white discrepancy for our babies.
Right. Now, we are live on the phone with Dr. Umar Johnson, who will be making his return to Durham, North Carolina on Tuesday, January 17th at the Hayti Heritage Center. That's located at 804 Old Fayetteville Street in Durham, North Carolina. Doors open at 4 p.m., but from 6 until 9 p.m., man, you need to come out, and they'll be talking about the psychoacademic holocaust against black boys, man, from grade school to the graveyard, man. So you don't want to miss that, man. Now, there are some other things. You mentioned the thing about the pipeline from school to prison. Now, I know that's something that's near and dear to your heart as well, too, man. So let's touch upon that as well.
Without question, schools were started by the church. But in the modern era, schools were pressured into existence by capitalism. Capitalism basically told the United States government that if you want us to keep our businesses, our factories here in the United States, you're going to have to provide us with a better educated, low-wage earner. And so basically it was big business that put pressure on the United States government to create a United States Department of Education, which we did not get until the 80s. And so basically the purpose of education is to prepare you to work, to prepare you to have your labor exploited by the corporations of America. Well, in the George Bush era, in the Bill Clinton era, in the Barack Obama era, with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, Bill Clinton with the NAFTA, you don't have a lot of industrial-based jobs anymore in America. There's a need for a better educated, low-wage earner in the United States. And that's exactly why you see so many public schools being shut down. This public school shutdown movement that has been going on about 10 years now is not a coincidence. They're shutting down the public schools because they don't have jobs for black children. And so the new purpose of public education is to prepare black boys for prison and black girls for poverty. And it's going to get worse with President-elect Donald Trump's new choice to head the Department of Education, Ms. DeVos. She is a charter school queen. She basically brought the charter school movement to Michigan, and she is a large reason why Detroit leads the nation in public school shutdowns in predominantly black communities. She came in with the voucher program. She came with the charter school program, and she decimated Detroit public school. So what you saw happen in Detroit is about to happen to black communities all across the country. Public school will soon be a thing of the past, and mass incarceration will be a thing of the future.
Dr. Umar, you say that this will be that of the past and this will be that of the future. However, how do we counter this, brother? You know, how do we counter it? Do we set up schools? This is and let me add on to that. When I look and I see in our community today, I see many of us out here and we're speaking and we're teaching. And we're talking about what is to come in the future. However, what we need to be doing as brothers and sisters in the community is already preparing for that by building our own schools. And so in order for us to build our own schools, we have to have the community support. Now, Dr. Umar, I know that you say that you're working to build a school. I saw a video not too long ago, I believe, and you're choosing from different cities where you want to build your school. And we know that you have had it done. I mean, you raise money. And my wisdom that I like to share with you is that also that, because I've said this before, I'm talking to you right now, you know, live on the iIgnite radio segment. And I've said this, not using your name, but said that, listen, we can start small. We don't have to start with a big school. We could start with a small school that the people will have faith in when they're seeing its movement. Like my wife and myself with Project Second Chance and Bright Young Minds Academy were co-founded by myself and my wife and my pop and a group of brothers with Project Second Chance. We came out of prison, and I was the first to come out of prison, brother, because we're talking about the school to prison pipeline. And I'm one that was doing very well in school. I'm one who graduated out of the 11th grade. I'm 43 years old now. And I'm one who was #1 fighter in the United States in my weight division by the time I was 15 in Taekwondo, before it became an Olympic sport. I was already training at the Olympic Training Center by the time I was 15. I wanted to be a veterinarian. But when I went to college and I got on the campus, I was only 17. I was made an offer. And when I was made that offer, it was to sell guns in the community. And I started doing that. However, at 17, you made an offer, and I say to myself now, and the way I teach it now, brother, to the children, I say to them, yes, I made a bad decision. Of course, I made a bad decision, but how many parents would like to know that the government is on college campuses making offers to your children? So when your child may call home and say, hey, mom, can I get $50 more? And you have to weigh that, oh my goodness, my child, should I just spoil them? Or should I, say no, and then know that there's somebody out there that's making my child an offer to hustle? And when I went into federal prison, brother, I saw a bunch of black people, a bunch of black men. And at this particular time, you could get your education. You can get a 4-year degree at Butner. I went to Butner right here in North Carolina, FCI, where Jesse Jackson was there. Madoff is there. Jim Baker, that's in our time, he was there. The John Pollard, who is the spy, he's there. So I went to this institution, and at this particular time, brother, you could wear your clothes. You had people walking around with Coogee sweaters on. You had people walking around with leather belts. I mean, that was ostrich shoes. And we had money in our pockets in prison, real money in our pockets in prison, and this was all legal at this particular time. This was the policy. But then when young black people start coming into the prison, and we start using it as a ground to get knowledge and see what's really going on, when we were able to do that, brother, and we start waking up, then they start pulling the education out of the prison. Then they start toughening up on the prison. They start taking the clothes, took the money out, took the Pell Grant away, so that we would no longer be able to elevate ourselves in knowledge. However, there was a prison program. It was called the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Program. And through that program, so many of us and other brothers, organizations also, but I'm speaking from a particular one. And from that particular program, the NOI Prison Reform Program, so many of us, brother, through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, were able to be touched. And I'm one of those brothers who the Honorable Minister Farrakhan touched. My thing was, what I'm speaking of right now is, what is our solution? I have a solution, and I line it up with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the minister has schools. And I'm saying, when are we as people, as brothers and sisters, man, going to go ahead and start building the schools, not just from the kindergarten, but even the first 5 years being some of the most formative years of our children's lives, having child cares is very important, because they're not just killing our children in middle school. I remember we used to say it was the middle school, like the middle passage. But now they're not getting our children just in the elementary school, because I was still inspired in elementary school. It was when I got to middle school. Now they're already reaching and teaching and getting our
One of the mistakes that Black America made in 1990 all the way into the present, for the past 30 years, we've been under a charter school hypnosis. And what a lot of people don't understand is that the charter school movement was started by white people who were interested in using public money to educate white children. The charter school movement was never about empowering Black children. On the other hand, it's important to keep in mind that the charter school movement was a drawback and a takeaway from the community control of public education movement. From the 60s until the 90s, we were fighting to control the schools in our community. When the charter school movement was created, it bamboozled a lot of Black folks into taking out charter school applications instead of continuing the fight for community control. The community does not control charter schools. Charter schools are controlled by the state. And in 2015, we see more Black charter schools shut down in the United States than any year since they were started in 1990. And the three reasons they use to basically snatch the charters away from Black folk is, number one, financial mismanagement, number two, low test scores, and number three, not having enough certified teachers. When you have an independent school, you don't have to worry about white folks telling you about your test scores. You don't have to worry about them hounding you for your certified teachers, and you don't have to worry about them looking through your books claiming financial mismanagement because you're not using public funds. You're using independent funds. The problem is that the Black community collectively does not have its priorities in place. Now, with regard to my work, the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, and actually here in Atlanta where I spoke last night, I was talking about this, and today I just went to visit a school, pretty good school here in Atlanta, Georgia, that it's not bad. The price is right, but I still have others to look at. I have to go back to Detroit, January 19th and 20th. I finally got access to the Detroit public schools. I saw a school in Pennsylvania that I thought would be good, an excellent one in Baltimore, but the price is a little high.
But Dr. Umar, Dr. Umar,
let me say this real quick.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me say this. With regard to starting small, I don't have a problem with that.
Yes, sir.
I will be starting small. But I also want people to understand something, that my vision is my vision. And it's going to be implemented the way I want to implement it. And unlike many of the other brothers and sisters who do have homeschool academies and independent schools, which I support, I come to the table with a lot more expertise. I'm a former school principal. I have that. I'm an educator by trade. I have that. So I've been in this for 20 years. I know exactly how it's supposed to be done, and I'm not going to shortchange our children in doing it right. For all of the billions of dollars that we waste, Philadelphia just spent $3 billion on Christmas. Detroit, $4 billion on Christmas. New York City, $8 billion on Christmas. It doesn't make any sense for me or anyone else to have to shortchange the educational reality for our children, because we clearly have the financial capability to do it right.
Well, check this out, Dr. Umar. I can see it from that perspective. I can humble myself and see it from that perspective. But guess what I'm going to do, brother? I'm going to challenge you. All right? I'm going to start small like I am, because I've been saying this for a long time. We need to be challenging each other. You know, you see basketball teams, they challenge one another. You see football teams, they challenge one another. You see rappers, they challenge one another. We see in the gang members, they challenge one another. But if we are brothers that say we want to build schools, then guess what, brother? I'm going to use that as inspiration. All right? And I'm going to challenge you, brother. You understand? You start big and I'm going to start small, and let's compete in education, brother. All right? And I'm saying that out of love, because that's inspirational. And let's let the people and ask the people, all right, to watch us, to back us. All right? I'm going to ask the people to back me. You ask the people to back you. And I'm going to come in love, and I'm going to say, brother, okay, brother, if that's your methodology, I understand that. Then let's try it. We won't know, you understand, until we do it. And then when we do it, then we'll know in the future. We'll leave some history and statistics for our children that not white folks did for us, but we did for ourselves. So I challenge you, black man. You understand? I challenge you, brother, to say, I've already started. And I'm going to keep growing it, and I'm going to ask the people out there, all right, to support it. And you ask the people out there to support you, brother. And I love you, brother, and I want you to be successful, man. I want you to be successful, brother. You know what I'm saying? And I hope you want me to be successful, because that's the kind of brotherhood I want to build, brother, with my people. And I want to encourage everybody out there, if you out there saying that you're in this for the children, let's all compete in education. The bands compete. Nobody complains about that. Then why can't we, brotherly in love, compete with one another? I'm down with it. Yes, sir, brother.
The other part as well, and we have to keep this in mind, is that as we build these schools,
yes, sir,
there's going to be far more black children who don't get access than those who do,
yes,
purely
sir,
because you can't house but so many.
Yes, sir.
So as we work to make sure that all of our children have that independent African-centered school experience, we still have to fight for those who are in the regular schools,
yes, sir,
until they're able to be broken out of that prison. And so one of the organizations that I've started, the National Independent Black Parent Association, is something I'm going to be talking about in Durham on Tuesday, January 17th, because we have a conference in San Diego January 27th and 28th at the World Beat Cultural Center, which is black-owned, where I'm going to be training new leaders in that organization. And we definitely need chapters throughout North Carolina, all the different cities and all the different counties. The National Independent Black Parent Association is our first national black organization that's independently funded, that's looking to actually change the trajectory of public education until we can provide all of our children with the appropriate independent school experience. So there will be 7 committees: a special education committee to investigate special ed fraud and abuse, to investigate how the extra special ed funds that come into a school by virtue of kids being put in special ed is spent. We have too many black kids being put in special ed unnecessarily, too many learning disabilities,
yes, sir,
too many mental retardations, too many emotional disturbances, and even autism, which is a real diagnosis, but it's often misdiagnosed in black children, even though it is a legitimate diagnosis. And then we have a discipline committee, because we're looking at the excessive expulsion and suspension of black children, especially our boys, across the country. A report came out in 2015. The United States Department of Education found that black boys in kindergarten and first grade were being suspended and expelled from school at a rate that exceeded white boys in high school. Totally unacceptable.
Yes, sir.
And then a policy committee to change the rules in the schools that negatively affect our children. So, for example, if you have a son who goes to school on the east side of Durham or the south side of Raleigh, okay, or the west side of Fayetteville, and you want him to go to school on the south side of Fayetteville, and you ask for a transfer to a better school, I want my son over there, the principal refuses you, claiming that I cannot approve that because we don't allow kids to go outside of our neighborhood lines to attend school. Well, that's not a state law. The state does not stop a child from attending school on the other side of the school district. That's simply a school district policy. It is a local operating rule that they made up during the desegregation era to guarantee that certain schools remain all white for the white folks who didn't have enough money to move out of the hood yet. So we can change a lot of the operating policies in the school districts if we unite. And then there will be a finance committee which will investigate how the districts are spending our tax base, because most money that comes into black school districts do not benefit black children. 75 cents of every public education dollar goes to the white teachers, not to the black children. And then there will be a social support committee whose job is to support black parents who are struggling to raise their children. Food, clothing, shelter, employment, health care, and then also a homeschool committee. We have a lot of black parents who are homeschooling, so we want to help organize them so they can have a homeschool network in every city in America so they can work together. So
yes,
you
sir.
may be the math teacher Monday for all the kids. Another brother might be the science teacher Tuesday for all the kids. A sister might do African language for all the kids. I'm finding that too many black parents are working in isolation with regard to homeschooling. Why take on all that burden by yourself when you have other black parents in the same boat? We can do it together and ease the burden for all of us. And the last committee is the Parent Advocacy Committee, which is very important, as they all are. But the Parent Advocacy Committee is making sure we have a cadre of parents who are trained, understanding special ed law, regular ed process, who can go with our parents into the schools whenever they're having a meeting, because it is my position that no black parent should ever go to the school by themselves.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother, we were talking about Donald Trump, coming in right now. We're still under President Obama, but just in a few days, we're going to have Donald Trump in position, and many of people who identify with him or may they think they identify with him, but they really don't even know him because they're functioning from much of a lower level. But those who do identify, we know that change is coming, brother, and we're knowing that change is going to be forced on our people right now. And as you say about what's happened in Detroit, that is coming to all the schools. What we have to do right now, and I'm not speaking just to you, Dr. Umar, I'm speaking to the audience also. This is how our show is, and I encourage the people through the show. We have to open our own schools now. We need people out there studying right now how to open up their own child cares. We've done it at Project Second Chance. And we want to open our own school. We have a before and after school program. We have homeschool students. So what we need to do, I'm saying to the audience out there, we need to support movements to open a school. But from Project Second Chance, we believe, however, from the ground up. Dr. Umar is saying that he has a vision, and I love that he has that vision. And I know as brothers, what we show on this show all the time, it's okay to have differences. There's beauty in differences. That's why you have different biologists, you have different psychologists, you have different kind of mechanics, you have different cars that you work on. So there is a difference, as Reverend Jeremiah Wright would say. Different does not mean deficient. It just means different. And black men can still be outspoken with one another and do it in love. So I want to share with everybody, say, listen, the system is corrupt. What Dr. Umar is telling us is that the system is corrupt, but guess what, Umar? The system didn't miss me, and it miseducated me too. It miseducated all of us as black people. We have been miseducated, and one of the biggest problems we have as black people is how to communicate with one another. We have problems with one another, but we communicate a lot of times. And with Project Second Chance, as a brotherhood, of brothers and sisters who've come out of prison and met people outside who have never been to prison. We have people that support Project Second Chance who are doctors. We have people that support Project Second who are carpenters. And we admire the carpenters as much as we admire the doctor. We admire the electrician as much as we admire the attorney. Because our people need a skill. And they're not given that skill in school. Your child can still come out with straight A's but don't know how to communicate properly with another black man or a black woman, because that has been embedded in us as a people. So it is very important that we start teaching our children from the time they're in their mother's wombs. We learn to reach our children in our mother's womb so we can produce more greatness in our community. But what good is our greatness if we cannot come together in our own greatness and recognize greatness in each other as brothers and sisters and become greater? So I want you to think about it. So, Dr. Umar, I say to you, my brother, hold on,
let me say this because I always have to interject at this part. Ladies and gentlemen, Larry is not yelling, okay? That's just passion. Okay, and obviously, Dr. Umar, you understand that as well, too, because we had a pre-conversation before the program as well, too, man.
Yes.
And it's definitely our responsibility, and I say our, the collective, that we have to get your message out there. We have to get Larry's message out there. We have to show our people that, yes, we can have intelligent conversation, man, and people have different ways of getting to the ultimate goal. But at the same time, you have to embrace those differences and find a common ground to actually achieve those goals. Now there are a lot of people that usually they'll comment while we're doing the show as well, Dr. Umar. So just so you know, and some of the questions were, well, did he accept the challenge? I would be remiss if I didn't put that out there because people are asking questions.
Yes, sir. Dr. Umar, do you accept the challenge, brother? From your brother, we're gonna compete. All right, and we're gonna compete on minds. We have a licensed child care. My wife was a former science teacher here in Cumberland County, very successful science teacher. I'm 43. My wife will be 35, a young age in a couple of days.
Give out her age?
No, because she's listen. That's young. That's young, man. Listen, we got to be proud of our youth.
Okay.
All right, because I'm 43 and I'm young, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm young in spirit. I'm young in mind, and I know that my future is the children. So we have a licensed child care, brother, and we have an after-school program, a before and after-school program. We do camps every summer. We reach out to different people across the United States, and they've attended. If you know the movie called Hidden Figures that is out right now, that starts January 6th, the opening, but it did open up on Christmas Day or the day after Christmas, I believe. It's about Miss Katherine G. Johnson. Are you familiar with Hidden Figures movie that's coming out, brother, about Miss?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Well, Project Second Chance, which is myself and the people that you're talking to right now, and the people that are listening on our Facebook Live, Project Second Chance is an organization that's responsible for putting Miss Katherine G. Johnson out there. And we came across Miss Katherine, and we've been pushing her name for about 7-8 years now, brother. I mean, pushing her very hard. She came into Fayetteville. In Fayetteville, we have a Katherine G. Johnson Day that was established in 2010. We have a Katherine G. Johnson STEM Institute that is in Fayetteville that was established here in this city, and we pushed her name because Miss Katherine didn't want her name out there. However, we convinced Miss Katherine that it was very important for the children to know who she was while she was living and not while she was dead, because so many times our people, all the time pretty much with our people, we don't recognize who our people are when they're living. And so it's very important that we are able to recognize who our people are, because many people were with Marcus Garvey, but there was many of people who were not with Marcus Garvey also. So those people, we don't get to hear about the history of those who was against them. You understand? We don't get that history. We don't get to see that. But in the future, near future, anybody who's against these type of people will be told in the future. So it's very important that we're on the right side of history, my people. So, I want to know, would you accept the challenge, brother? You say you want to start big and you have your vision. I want to be encouragement.
No, but he also said that he's willing to start small. He did say that.
He did say that. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. We're going to start small, but we're going to start with a building. I mean, as a Pan-Africanist, we believe very seriously in institutionalization. And I think one of the shortcomings of Black America, especially in the modern times, we don't institutionalize our systems and our programs, so they normally die with the people who found them. And that's one of our biggest problems as a people. You have a program that went for 50 years, but it was never institutionalized. So for me, I'm a nation builder. That's the perspective that I come from. So it would be less than optimal for me, with my potential, my expertise, my background, to settle for a homeschool or makeshift school when I have it within me and the community has it within it to do so much better. I don't consider it starting big at all. I consider it starting appropriately.
Got you, brother. Yes, sir.
And see, that is so important for you to actually say that, so people can have a better understanding of that, because a lot of times when the words come out, and people are going to hear what they want to hear, and then they're going to misinterpret what your intentions are. It's funny because just a couple weeks ago we talked about raising the standards.
Yes, that's what Ms. Katherine G. Johnson said.
And there's nothing wrong with your standards being as high as you want them to be, and we as a collective, we need to understand that and respect that. And if anything, show our support for that. And like I said, there are so many people that have different ways of getting to certain points, but it's not to say that your way is the best way or my way is the best way, but as long as we're going that way, we're putting forth the action. Because I think a lot of times,
I'm a big supporter of putting any proposed solution into play at the same time. So, for example, when you look at the Black consciousness community, obviously I spent a lot of time in New York City, which is still largely the hub of that, and of course here in Atlanta, where I am now. You have your Hebrew brothers, your Moorish brothers, your Nawapian brothers, your Gods and Earth, you got your Nation of Islam, obviously the Black nationalists, your Pan-African nationalists, the Garveyite camp, which is what I represent. You have your integrationists, your Black socialists, you got them all. And so when people say, well, how do you decide whose solutions should be implemented, I say we don't have the benefit right now to be putting any solution in front of any other one. Put them all in play. Put the Moorish solution in play. Put the Nation of Islam solution in play. Put the Garvey solution, and put them all in play. What do you have to lose by operating multiple plans of success at the same time? Why are we so small-minded that we feel it only has to be one way?
And this is what I say, brother, is that, Dr. Umar, we can't spread ourselves too thin. And so I understand your perspective. I really do. But when I look at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I just don't see that he is a man that anybody could ignore. And if we see the work that he's done, the places that he's set up all across the United States, you know, at least, because I saw your video and we talked about elders, at least elder, if there's anybody that's the elder, I'm saying in my eyes, and who is the elder who has survived the time, because we can't, in the midst of all of this that you're saying, we cannot dismiss the enemy. The enemy is real to everything you're saying. And so I can't dismiss that. So I always look to one who has always survived this enemy, and he has schools and he has things. So when you see how things have been from the past, I study history also, and we learn that sometimes starting small, yeah, I understand what you're saying, implement all of them, but you know, sometimes there are, what we need to get behind is that which is working the best. Not necessarily you become that, but you come like, you know, the one that's the body. You became, okay, I'm not the head. I realize I'm going to have to be the heart. Okay, I'm not the heart. I realize I'm going to have to be the lung. Okay, I'm going to have to be a cell. I'm going to have to be this. I'm going to have to be a hand. You know, and until we come together, as I was growing up, I used to see Voltron and these multiple little, you know, robots. But to defeat the enemy, they would come together and they would come into a robot, and then somebody had to be the head. You know, and that was what was so wonderful. You could see it as a cartoon that they would accept to defeat the enemy, somebody be the head. But as black people, man, it seems like we still struggle with that.
Oh, you just left that out there bland, huh? Okay, so let me say this, because there are also some other things that you're working on as well too, because there is I believe an annual journey or trip that you take to Africa as well too, Dr. Umar. So I wanted to make sure that we talk about
the
that.
Unapologetically African Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey tour. And so we do 2 countries every year. We go the same time, last week in July, first week in August. This past year we did Senegal and South Africa. They absolutely loved it. The year prior we did Ghana and Egypt. The year prior to that we did Ghana and Morocco. This coming summer I'm looking to East Africa. I just had an opportunity to probably give the most significant presentation of my life. I was invited to speak at Jomo Kenyatta University in October to speak at a gathering of young Pan-Africanist leaders that represented at least 40 of the 50 or so nations on the continent. So that, for me, will be an experience that I'll never forget. And to be chosen as the keynote for that is definitely one of the greatest honors. I mean, to sit in the room and have leaders, young leaders, no one probably was above the age of 30. I think most were beneath the age of 25. And they're representing Sudan, Congo, South Africa, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, the Gambia, Rwanda, Liberia. I mean, it was powerful. It was powerful. And so having had the opportunity to spend time in Kenya, learn firsthand about the Mau Mau revolution, that type of thing, I'm really looking at Kenya as one of those countries for this coming summer. Also Uganda, where I have a strong support base. I'm also looking at Malawi. But I think we're going to do East Africa because we haven't done that outside of Ethiopia. So if anyone wants to go with us, my tour is largely young folk for the most part. We get a few elders, but most of the people who travel with us are normally between the age of 25 and 45, I would say. And I attract that youthful energy. But again, it's across spectrum. We've had young children, we have elders. So that's the last week of July, first week in August. It's 14 days, 14 nights. And then prior to that, the first 2 weeks in July is the Black College and Consciousness Tour. We'll be leaving out of Atlanta this year, June 28th to July 12th, 14 days, 14 nights. Last year, we left and returned to New Jersey. We went to the Audubon Ball Ballroom. We took him to, which is the Malcolm and Betty Shabazz Center now. We took him to the world-famous Apollo Theater, Ferncliff Cemetery, where we pour libations at the grave of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and I'll be keynoting his Earth Day celebration in Brooklyn the 12th of this month. So we visited his grave, Dr. Malcolm El-Hajj, and also his Queen Betty, Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen, Paul Robeson, James Baldwin, young Malcolm Shabazz. All of them are in the same cemetery, believe it or not. And then we went on up to Auburn, New York, the Harriet Tubman home where she lived, her grave, her museum, the Frederick Douglass grave. We came down, Lincoln University, Cheney, our two oldest HBCUs, which is in Pennsylvania. Then we came on down to the African Holocaust Museum in Philadelphia, which is a must-see. It's the only museum in the United States dedicated exclusively to the Ma'afa, the transatlantic slave trade. All of the items in the museum are 100% authentic from the days of our enslavement. I mean, soon when you walk in the door, you can feel the ancestors' energy. And then we took them on down to the Liberty Bell so they could see the hypocrisy of the George Washington, the Thomas Jefferson, after coming from the African Holocaust Museum. And then the Great Blacks and Wax Museum, the Benjamin Banneker House, Harriet Tubman Hometown, Underground Railroad, the Nat Turner Trail. We went to the Nat Turner Trail. We also had fun. Dorney Park, great adventures, paintball in the park, pool parties. I mean, they really enjoy it. They get the best of both worlds, the college experience as well as the Black consciousness experience. So this year, we're looking at Clark. We're looking at Spelman, Morehouse, the Dr. King Center, where I will be speaking. I was invited by Dr. Bernice King, the daughter of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She invited me to be part of a panel to discuss race relations in America. That will be on King Day, which I believe is Monday, January the 16th. Right. It will be in Atlanta. Senator Bernie Sanders will be there, John Cage, the mayor of Atlanta, Kasim Reed, many others are going to be there. So I'm going to be a part of that. That's going to be broadcast live. I don't know if it's CNN or not, but I'll be a part of that think tank. And then we'll be going to the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee State, Lamona Owen College, Fisk University, Tuskegee, the George Washington Carver Museum, the Oyotunji African Village, the Charleston Slave Tour, the South Carolina Civil War boat ride. I mean, it's going to be powerful. Our children loved it. They contact me all the time. Dr. Umar, when can we sign up for part 2? So if anyone has a son or daughter between the age of 11 and 17, male or female, they can go. 14 days, 14 nights. Registration will be coming up soon, and they'll be able to register at princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com, and we spell Africa with a K. Once again, the link to register for the college tour is princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com. It's also the place where they can get tickets for the event on January the 17th. So we have the college tour, we have the parent conference, the National Independent Black Parent Association Training Conference in San Diego, the 27th and 28th. We got the 2-week trip to Africa, the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. We're still accepting resumes also. If you would like to be a part of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy for Pan-African Excellence, you can send your resume to fdmgresumes with an S at gmail.com. And keep in mind, we're not just looking for teachers. We need science, we need math teachers, we need history, we need language, but we also need brothers and sisters who can do natural hair care. Because all the girls, when we open up the girls' school, the Anna Douglas and Amy Garvey Academy, they have to be 100% nappy by nature. We will not allow processed hair in our school. We also need brothers and sisters who can do raw and vegan food preparation. The diet of the FDMG Academy will be 85% raw and vegan. We need those who can do African martial arts. We're going to have all of the sports. So we need coaches, security guards, bus drivers, secretaries, nurses, social workers. I have a brother in North Carolina who is a shellfish seaman. And so he's going to teach our young men how to fish, not just for fish, but for oysters and shrimp and crab and all of that. And as you know, it was Black Philadelphians who invented the seafood industry, and it was Black Philadelphians who invented the business of catering food. Those are Black creations. And so we're going to teach our young men how you can actually make an industry, a business out of seafood. We got another brother who makes footwear. He's going to come to the school and teach our young men how how to make their own shoes. We got a queen mother, several sisters who do sewing, and a few brothers, and all of the children will be responsible for making their own uniforms after they've been enrolled in the school for 2 years or more. So we're talking about a nation-building institution that is preparing black boys to carry out the vision of revolutionary Pan-African nationalism, which is international economics and international Pan-African political power.
Yes, sir. Dr. Umar, with all this that I heard, which is wonderful, why do we not have schools, brother? You know what I'm saying? Why do we not have, can you name some black schools that are in the community that you have visited? Because I know we have some in Manhattan, we have some around the country. Have you visited any phenomenal schools yet?
Yes, the longest running, continuously opened independent African school in the United States is the Ujamaa Shule in Washington, D.C., which is ran by Baba Kasinta Kokona Zulu, Baba Zulu, and I'm actually the keynote for his fundraising gala that they do every year. So he's the oldest in existence.
How many students does approximately how many students does he have, brother?
I'm not sure. I believe Baba is over. Is he 200?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure of the numbers, but I believe he has a strong student base. And then obviously you have the Garvey School. You have a couple Marcus Garvey.
How many students are you starting out with, brother? How many students are you going to?
That's going to depend on the building that I get.
Yes,
the
sir.
School operation will be actually shrunk to fit the size. So, for example, the school I looked at in Atlanta today, that school can hold 220 students, 14 classrooms. The school that I looked at in Pennsylvania can do 400. The school I looked at in Baltimore can do about 300. So I would actually fit the school operation to the size of the building.
Do you already have a curriculum written for, and what grade levels would it be?
Well, ultimately, we're going to go from pre-K to 12, ultimately.
Okay.
Again, depending on the school that I start with, I would have to select grades. So if I had to select, so for example, if I went with the school I saw today, 220, I would probably do something between second and fourth. If the school is a little bigger, I would probably do something between second and fifth, because those are the grades when our young men begin to experience psychological dropout. That kicks in third, fourth, and fifth. So that is the grades that I would try to pinpoint.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Umar, what school did you get your PhD from, brother?
I graduated undergrad. Firstly, I'll just give it all. Undergrad from Millersville University, which is in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I did my 3 degrees from Millersville, bachelor's in psychology, another bachelor's in political science, my first master's in school psychology. I did my second master's at Lehigh University, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. That's where I earned my educational leadership credentials and my principal certificate. And my third master's and doctorate are both from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine and American Psychological Association approved program, one of the top psychological training programs on the East Coast. And if anyone questions that, they can contact any of those white colleges and get the information.
Yes, sir. That's why I asked, brother. That's one. And brother, of course, also we know that, you said you were open to talk about whatever, and so we know that we are living in the times right now, to where in our communities we should be uniting. However, we see a lot of division amongst our people who are brilliant like yourself. And what reason why I say this is because we have a lot of children that look to us as an example. And can you please express the recent incident, and what you want to see to come out of this, and what is your goal, what is your agenda, what have you learned? Because I watched the video of the apology and I saw your brilliance of giving, the psyche of those who shared the video. And I told you I didn't share the video. I didn't even use your name. All right. I did, however, I will hope that you would go back, and now that we're building a relationship, because I like to build a relationship with you, brother. But I hope that you would go back and watch my videos so that you'll get a good understanding of me and the perspective I come from. How do you see us moving forward and discipline? Let me ask you a question, brother. But children, in certain communities, we have yet to eradicate certain words. And we're living in a time where these schools we're talking about, that public schools is getting ready to pretty much be eradicated. So therefore, the focus is going to have to be on black men. That means that we cannot look to no other community and expect any other community or a public school that is free to miseducate us to do anything else for us. So it's going to have to be us that are in the positions that's saying that we're going to do these great things, or we already are doing these great things. That is, we're going to have to be the examples, not of just good language, but we're going to have to be together of and show the example of how we interact with one another when we differ, because there are tense times right now, brother. We can't ignore it. We just can't ignore it because we are obligated as black men to teach our children. Education doesn't start just in the school. Education is social media too, because plenty of children are watching and plenty of people are watching. And then at the same time, we do also understand that Donald Trump can become a president, but a black man like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad can be vilified for years and years and years and years for lies. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we see with Malcolm, now reviewing history, now reviewing Martin Luther King's history, we know, as a matter of fact, the government has been found guilty for participating in the murder of Martin Luther King. And we now know that the government and the enemy was involved with the killing and assassination of Malcolm X, and now we know the story because they were watching them the whole time. This is history. Now, you, me, brothers and sisters that have our message, we are no different. We are no different. So we have to be the example, and we have to break that cycle to where they can come and get amongst us and get away with like they did with Tupac and Biggie. So I say this, brother, because I say to all my listeners out there, Donald Trump can become a president, but it takes a squeaky clean black man like President Obama to become a president. But right after that, you got a Donald Trump that can become president. However, a black man like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan can be vilified for things that they say and twist it, and it's not the truth. However, brother, I just wanted to reflect, because the people, they deserve just to hear you out on that perspective.
Well, let me first say, and we could spend a few minutes on it. I don't like to spend a lot of time on negative items.
Yes, sir.
But I will speak to it.
Yes, sir.
One of the ironies which I expressed in my video about the whole situation is whenever something unfortunate happens, I notice that it gets so much more attention than the positive. Our people, out of their self-hatred, are addicted to negativity. The way in which that situation spread like wildfire scales in comparison to the way the positive works spread like wildfire. I mean, that was shared way more than the fundraiser. That was shared way more than the college tour. That was shared way more than the African trips, way more than the interventions with the parents, way more than the other positive things. So I see where our people's interest is, and it is not on the positive things. But basically, generally speaking, being within the black consciousness community, being the most requested black scholar in the United States, that comes with it animosity. It can come with some envy. And so being on that lecture circuit, being one of the only brothers who has a legitimate doctorate degree, who gets invited to speak on all 6 continents where humans live.
What makes it, Dr. Umar, what makes it legitimate? Because, if you say the only legitimate doctor's degree, I want to hear your perspective on that.
Well, you earn it. Legitimate, just that.
Yes, sir. Meaning
you earned it.
Yes, sir.
Whether you earned it from an HBCU or PWI, a legitimate doctorate, something you earned.
Yes, sir.
And so, it puts me in a category that doesn't have a lot of company in it. And so, to make a long story short, I had been working on the UNIA level locally within the Garvey movement for most of my public speaking career, from the time I got my first master's in 2000 up until I started Team Pan-African, my first trip to Africa in 2005. Now, things changed drastically in 2010 after I did a public access television interview in Chicago on the war on black boys, which is on YouTube. And that interview there, once Chicago saw that, and then New York got a hold of that a couple weeks later when I spoke in Harlem. So you're looking at two events in the two largest black cities in America, Chicago and then Harlem, separated by 2 weeks. This is the fall of 2010. The Chicago interview, I believe, was September 18th. The Harlem lecture was Halloween night of 2010. And so, having worked locally for 10 years, after that Chicago TV interview and that Harlem lecture in the fall of 2010, within 48 hours, literally within 48 hours, I had became a household word. I was getting phone calls and emails and requests, come here, where you been, never heard of you. And so from that point to now, in terms of my career and my work, it has just been a steady upwardness. And there was many who did not like it. They felt that I was given a platform without having earned it because they didn't know the work that I had already put in, but because I had already had a following from saving parents, not talking, but saving children and working with parents and working in the schools, you know, that foundation was already laid. And so to make a long story short, there's been a lot of petty attacks, a lot of things being said. I overlooked most of it, but every once in a while, you know, you're going to feel the need to say something about it. But again, after I did my video, I took it down within a couple hours the next morning, but it had already been snatched and shared and so forth because, again, the addiction to negativity that we have. And so, you know, I apologize to the youth who follow me, so forth and so on. And, of course, you know, I pledge to try not to let a situation like that get the best of me again, you know. But I would say that based on my track record of doing this for 20 years, I think the good far outweigh, you know, one day of me feeling the need to express myself in a way that was less than what people expect of a Dr. Umar. So those things happen from time to time.
Can you, brother, can I ask you a question?
Get more attention than the work.
Let me ask you a question. Can you possibly, do you believe that you and the brothers are going to be able to be the example for the community? I'm talking about gang members, I'm talking about young people, I'm talking about adults, and settle your differences. Is that going to happen, brother? Is there going to be peace?
Well, for me, it's peace because I don't have a reason to be upset with anyone. You know, even brothers who I've had issues with, you know, who've been the source of attacks against me in the past, you know, many of them, you know, I reconcile with because that's not my heart. You know, I got a heart of love for our people. You know, I do understand how sometimes people can feel slighted when the community chooses someone over them, because you constantly hear this whole thing of I've been out here for years and I've never gotten this. Even when I travel the world, I go to different places like Europe or South America, the Caribbean, and people say, you know, when you come, I see people I ain't seen in 10 years, and we've been on the ground here, you know, but I can't be faulted.
Brother, who Dr. Umar Johnson, who mentors you, brother? Who would you say right now that mentors you?
No, I have a lot of elders who I'm very close with. I'll just name two of the many, and one of them is the good brother Dr. Claude Anderson, who I would consider the top black economist in the country. Another one is the attorney Alton Maddox and his beautiful wife, Queen Mother Leola Maddox, who I would consider the attorney Maddox the top black attorney. That's the brother who, you know, defended Tawana Brawley back in that situation that took place with the New York City Police Department. And then I still have others beyond that. Some are names that people would not even know, but I have a very strong cadre of elders who I consult with.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have questions, I'm sure, you know, from many people out there, brother, and I would just say to you, brother, I am going to continue to move in the direction with the blessing of the people and blessing of God. You know, I wish you, brother, I really pray that God continues to bless you on your journey. But, you know, I put up a book, brother, you know, because one of the things that we have to do within our community and amongst ourselves, you know, brotherhood. You know, brotherhood is very important in our communities. In order for us to have school, we have to have support from the people. In order for them to have schools, we have to have support from the people. So if our people are in the condition that they're in, this is proven, brother. You know what I'm saying? That the doctorate degrees, that the master's degrees, this is something, brother Dr. Umar, that I've been speaking before I ever met you, brother, or even knew Dr. Umar. You know, so I'm only speaking still the truth that I always speak, you know what I'm saying? And I believe that all these degrees, brother, it cannot bring unity amongst our people. It can't heal the sickness within our people that we have. The biggest problem we have is with ourselves. And it's with black people not being able to communicate and interact with one another productively. And that is an issue. So, you know, brother, I'm just saying to you, brother, the ones who I see who have that influence, brother, you know, to bring the peace whenever there was any kind of thing that was taking place, brother. Tupac, after the Biggie situation, it got too late. That was when Russell Simmons decided, man, we got to do something, and he took it to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So that's my wisdom to you, brother. You know that if anything, brother, that's the elder. You know, and I like Dr. Claude Anderson too, brother. You better believe it. Powernomics, I mean, brother, I love my brother. That brother's brilliant too, brother. So just want to let you know, we study the same brothers, but don't dismiss the fact, brother, that, you know, the greatest thing our people can see, the greatest thing our children can see right now is peace, man. Because we got an enemy, and we know we got an enemy, man. I just can't see how we can be enemies of one another, to the point that where we want to, brothers want to aggress one another. You know, when brothers have security, brothers shouldn't be worrying about other brothers, but it's a shame that brothers had to worry, you know what I'm saying, like Malcolm X. Now we find out the people that were supposed to be his closest friends were his enemies. You know, now we find out that with Martin Luther King, that some of the brothers that was out there taking and getting bit and getting put in jail with him, we find out, now we realize that they were his enemies. Because as scripture says, the love of money, not money, but the love of money is the root of all evil. Until we get that all the way into all our children's hearts, man, to not sell out, man, to keep moving forward. All right? Our children need us, man. Our children need us, man, and we don't need huge platforms to do it. I'm saying this to everybody out there. You don't need a huge platform. Just do it, man. Our people need it, man. Our children need it. And what does it profit a man to gain the world but lose his soul? So in other words, what does it profit you people to go out there to the world and go all and travel the whole world, but our people, our children, the statistics right here in our communities, our children are dying, man, from the lack of knowledge. So I say to everybody out there, man, do it, man. We got to get inspired. And Dr. Umar, Brother Nuri Muhammad says something, brother. I heard him say something that was so powerful one time. And I've seen it because I worked with children for many years. I've been a mentor since I was in elementary school. All right. And I've been a mentor all the way from middle school, all the way to high school, all the way, even I was a mentor in prison. And I say, brother, it's you know, my thought process, man, but you know, my goodness, brother, it's heavy on my heart to see our people go in the direction that they're going. And I'm just saying, brother, you know, and from the top, from the low levels, you know, we see what's happening with our children, man. I'm saddened, man. You know, I really am, brother. I'm saddened because our children need us, man. Our children truly are our future. We go out there and we're doing whatever we're doing as a people. I'm talking about people. Even myself, I have to raise the standard. Miss Katherine G. Johnson, who is responsible for doing the mathematics to land them on the moon. The white man took the credit for it and give all the credit to these astronauts that are like athletes. They're smart too, but they don't tell us that it was a black woman while they were sicking dogs on us. They didn't tell us that it was a black woman, that they were using a black woman's brain to do the trajectories to land them on the moon when white man couldn't figure it out. So I just want to say to everybody out there, man, we have to be active. We have to do the work. We have to show. Says, but faith without works is dead. We have to do the work. We have to collectively come together, and we have to do it for our children. Our children are our future. We're doing all this in vain. All this we're doing is all in vain if we can't leave it to our children. So This is Larry Rivera with Project Second Chance. I thank everybody out there. I love each and every one of you. I thank Ray Thomas. I thank all of you out there. I thank Dr. Umar Johnson for being humble enough to come on the radio show. I didn't know this. I found this out this morning. So this is not something that I try to reach out to go. No, but I did say in the video, Ray, that I hope my brother gets to hear this message. Because we are living in very serious times. Very serious times. And we cannot, in the midst of all of this talk, we cannot ignore we have an enemy. He's getting us through our vaccines. He's getting us through the educational system, drugging our children, and we're allowing them to do it. So we need our own schools. We need to support ourselves. We need to support our own people. So again, this is Larry at Project Second Chance. I hope everybody got what they needed today to move forward, to let everybody know, man, we on a mission, man. And God is with us. God is the center. And this enemy that we're talking about that's on the outside of us, guess what? That enemy came from us because we know that white people came from us. This is what we all agree on. Science shows that this enemy that we have that is all over the world raising hell, that this enemy comes from the inside, the genetic makeup of black people. So guess what? The enemy we see in the world is the same enemy that is in us. And we got to deal with that enemy. We got to keep that enemy in check before we ever conquer the enemy outside of us, because that enemy inside of us, as scripture would say, let this mind be in you, the same mind that was in Christ Jesus. Well, guess what? If a mind can be in you, then what's in our mind right now? It don't seem like the love of a Christ Jesus. For those of you who read the Bible, the minds we have within inside of ourselves right now is division, hate, envy, and the love for money. And people will say all the time, yeah, you want to hide something from a black person? All you got to do is put it in a book. We're past that now. They put it in our children. They're hiding the brilliance in our children every day. And our children are suffering. I'm meeting little children on medication. They come off medication and they only 4 years old, and you're looking at these little brothers and they brilliant. These little sisters are brilliant and they're going at our greatest minds. And they're no longer offering us money. They're offering us, in exchange for the mind of our children, credit. So this is Larry Rivera again with Project Second Chance. Dr. Umar, this is how I roll, brother. You know, honestly, this is me every Monday. This is me every day when I'm going live on Facebook, brother. Our people, because Brother Nuri Muhammad, I didn't get to quote it. Brother Nuri Muhammad said that 75% of educating our children is inspiration. He said encouragement. Let me say that correctly. I use the word inspiration. Because if our children are not inspired, man, to want to get this knowledge that you have, brother, if they're not encouraged to want to get this knowledge and use it, if they don't have the examples of the application of it, then, brother, we gonna fall far behind. So thank you, brother, for coming on. Thank you, Ray. I hope everybody out there got what you were looking for.
Dr. Umar, what I also want to be able to give to you as well, too, if there's, before you get off, if there's something that you want to share with the global audience. I know that we touched on, various things that we wanted to talk about. But, Larry just had his closing, so I'd like to give you the opportunity to do you as well.
Certainly, and I enjoyed the show. Thanks for having me on. I would just encourage the listening audience to continue to support me with the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy fundraiser. They can donate online, gofundme.com/Dr. Umar. They can also donate by sending a check or money order in, payable to the FDMG Academy, to P.O. Box 6872, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19132. In addition to that, I hope to see them all, the whole North Carolina family, out at the Hayti Heritage Center on Tuesday, January the 17th, 6 until 9. It's going to be a very, very powerful night. Looking forward to it. My first visit in 13 years. And if they have any questions about their children, any issues that they're currently going through in the education realm or mental health realm, please call in tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. until 8 a.m. The phone number again is 857-232-0158, 857-232-0158. and the access code is 870-864-POUND, 870-864-POUND. If they need to reach me directly, they can do that through the website, drumarjohnson.com, drumarjohnson.com, as well as 844-4 Dr. Umar. Again, that's 844-4 DRUMAR. And if they need the flyer, if anyone needs the flyer, they can email me, drumarjohnson@yahoo.com, or they can text me for the flyer at area code 215-989-9858. Again, 215-989-9858. And they can follow me on social network, Twitter and Instagram at Dr. Umar Johnson. And on Facebook, I use my Yoruba last name, Ifatunde. So on Facebook, they want to look for Dr. Umar Ifatunde, and the profile picture is myself and Brother Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club interview.
Hey, brother, Dr. Umar, I want to say, brother, first, I want to close out. I want to make it very clear to everybody in the global audience that I love you, brother. All right? I love you, and I pray for you, brother. You know what I'm saying? And I pray for our youth. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for your humility. I appreciate you, brother. And I thank God. I want to thank everybody out there. I love you, Dr. Umar.
Thank you, my brother.
Yes,
love
sir.
you too, brother.
Yes, sir.
And before we go, let me give you this open invitation, man. Whenever you're in the Carolinas, in the North Carolina area, you know where your home is, all right?
I appreciate that.
All right, so I definitely wanted the people to understand that, man. And when you do make that college tour too, make sure you put Fayetteville, North Carolina, on that schedule as well too, because I would definitely love for you to stop by the Bright Young Minds Academy so you can see the work that Larry is doing, with his school, as well as with Project Second Chance as well, and also give you a tour of the historic Black College and University here at Fayetteville State University, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I haven't been to Fayetteville yet, I don't think.
Yes, sir.
But it might be a stop I need to get on my Black History Month calendar.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. And we'll make that happen.
And Dr. Umar, I just want to extend, the olive branch of love. And when we get off, I would like for you, brother, I would like to say this publicly, I would like for you, brother, whenever, you have someone you may be seeking advice from, put me on that list where I can just at least give advice. And even if you don't take my advice, brother, maybe over time you will see that the advice that I'm offering may help you. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to see you successful, brother. We're opening in school, and I want to see that school off the chain. Keep the standards high. So I just want to say, when we get off, brother, please, you know what I'm saying, whenever you have a question, call your brother too, man. And I'll be there with you, brother. And I want to give wisdom so you can see who you have in this circle here in Fayetteville as well.
Powerful.
All right, definitely so. There you have it, man. Dr. Umar Johnson. And don't forget, he will be at the Hayti Heritage Center, man, on the 17th.
Yes, sir.
And you know what? People were asking this question. Is there a cover charge or admission price for that event?
Yes, sir. If they get the tickets now, it's $20 online. If they go to princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com, they can probably also just go to Eventbrite and type in events for Durham, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. But it's $20. Children 12 and younger are free.
Okay.
And elders 65 and over are also free.
Okay.
But it's $20 if they get the tickets online now.
All right, see, that's good information. I know the people were asking about that. I saw a lot of the people posting, man. Once again, thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it, fellas. Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you.
There you have it,
Right
Dr.
now.
Umar Johnson. All right. There you have it. I Ignite.
Yes, I Ignite, and I want to just say, I put up self-improvement, the basis for community development. I want to say this is a study guide that's by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and inside of it you have what is called, listen, this is what distinguishes me from many of people, is self-improvement, the basis for community development. I give credit to where credit is due. So I just wanted to share this with everybody because it's very important that we understand that we must improve self in order to build the community. You have to improve self so we can communicate with one another. So I hope that everybody out there got something from this message. Thank you, Ray. You know what I'm saying? It was awesome having the brother on, man. I hope everybody got what they wanted. You can go through the questions too, because I know they say they wanted to.
Before we vote on your request for parole, we do have some questions. Do you think you'll be able to adjust to life on the outside?
Allow me to partologize myself. Suppositorily speaking, my incarceration has forced, you understand, the ventilation of, shall I say, my dairy air. And upon my discharge, I will evacuate ejaculate my mind to the prophylactic of the bowels of society.
But how would you support yourself, Mr. Bates, considering that your reading comprehension has gone down every year since you've been in prison?
A very vaginative proposition, my man. That is to say, prostitution pertaining to the cotex, you understand, of the argument. I myself have imminentized my liquidation, therefore, ergo, i.e., that is the instigation, which is excessive cleavage, shall we say. So, let me clarify, or, clarify. In other words, I'd probably teach.
All right, if there are no further questions, let us put this to a vote. All those in favor of parole vote aye.
Aye.
All those opposed vote nay.
Nay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bates. Is there anything further you'd like to say?
Let me be venereal in my requisition for this body of congregation, see, for the personal gratification of my urethras. As the Greek philosopher Massengill once dictated, lickus my proboscis. Undouche me. I can find my own damnation in tardy completion.